All right, so we are going to be going through a very important Black Friday slash November slash December account structure. Now, if you haven't already watched the timeline video specifically, then go back and watch that for Black Friday or for the November portion of this program. What I'm about to go through in structure, makes no sense without this timeline. To recap this timeline very briefly, we have a start of Black Friday sale, which is November. We have Black Friday, we have Cyber Monday. We have early December sales, we have a mid-December sale, and all of this needs to get pushed into a more formal structure. Now, there are a lot of caveats here. There's a lot of different things that you can do. To be completely transparent with everyone, if I said this is the only way you can do it, I would be lying. There are going to be successful brands out there that actually just add to their structure. There's going to be brands that completely axe their existing structure and just run sales. I'm going to show you what I found to be most successful during this period. There's a lot of things that could change, but take a lot of this with a grain of salt, but this is just truly what I've seen to be most successful. When we're running in our normal M3 framework, right, which everyone at this point should really understand, go back earlier in the program and watch each of the breakdowns for how these campaigns and how the system works. If we're running in this primary structure that I always recommend, then you're going to be put in a very hard situation if Black Friday begins, because mostly you have a scale campaign that is getting dedicated budget that probably is not going to be as successful as your Black Friday budget or your Black Friday ads, because they're promoting like big deals. Then you have a prospecting CBO that these Black Friday assets are going to have to work their way up to actually get spent. So the flaw of this entire structure, which I've mentioned before, is that it minimizes wasted ad spend, which is it's a benefit actually. It minimizes wasted ad spend, but the way that it does that is it takes a few extra days for things to get kicked off the ground. Because it takes a few extra days for things to get kicked off the ground, we cannot just insert our Black Friday assets into our prospecting CBO, because then it would take days for things to get really rolling. Now, because of that, we have to do some heavy recreation, which is normally pretty concerning, right? It's definitely going to be different. So what that means is, in many cases, with a grain of salt, you are pausing down everything you're actively running on the day you're making a swap to your Black Friday campaigns. The big caveat here is set this up a week beforehand, get through all of your approvals, make sure everything is ready to go so that you can click the activate button and everything gets swapped instantly. You don't want to have a black period of no ads running. Okay, so what do we do instead? First off, in this new structure, we do not run a scale campaign at all. The timeline is too short. We're not evaluating ads at the level we would like to be evaluating during evergreen times, so we do not have a scale campaign. What we do have is we still have a prospecting CBO and a retargeting and a retention. So the things that we get rid of, and I'm not going to create a new graphic here because I think this is important for everyone to like kind of visualize this. So the things that we get rid of are the scale and the graduation. Completely gone during this period. Feels crazy, but it's going to be for good reason. So with the scale and the graduation eliminated, let me clean this up for us. Now, what this now looks like is, instead of like a testing grounds here, this is just our pure new customer acquisition. So our new customer acquisition focus on a prospecting campaign with all of the same settings we've broke down in the original prospecting campaign, right? We have exclusions in place. We're making sure that our targeting is mostly broad. All of the same principles apply. The only difference here is, instead of running every new pack like we normally do, every time we have a new active part of the sale, that is becoming a new pack. For example, going back to our timeline, let's say for the early November period, you're running the 30% off site-wide. That's just your main deal, 30% off site-wide. So what this becomes is your early November, 30% site-wide, right? This is a big shift from how we normally approach things. This is our early November, 30% off site wide. And then we are grouping basically all of the creatives in this period into this one single ad set. Now there's another big caveat to this. We're going to use targeting for the first time in our prospecting CBO. So in this case, let me get our fonts to be a little bit bigger here. In this case, we're running a broad, right? This is going to be our first broad early November, 30% off site wide with a round of creatives in here. The first thing I need to mention is, let's say you have multiple rounds of creatives, like you're adding along the way because your sale is 20 days and you find new creatives, you build new creatives along the way. You're still adding those in as new packs. So for example, this could then look like another broad. This would be the early November 30% off site wide pack 2, right? So the same principle technically applies here, right? We're still running in packs. And if you had a new pack specific for the early November sale, then great, you run that new pack in here. The next part of this is, what do we do if we just have a boatload of creatives, right? Let's say we had 50 creatives. We're not going to throw 50 creatives into one ad set. That's a nightmare. What we would do instead is we would pre-create packs. So we would have, for example, 30% off site-wide early November. And then what we would say here is something like pack 1, and this would be potentially a creative group. Let's say we have a bunch of creatives that talk about this pen specifically being 30% off, right? So I would label that pen. So we'd have pack 1, pen. Then we'd have potentially pack 2, where I talk about notepads. I don't know, I'm just looking at things around me. I think you guys could probably get the point here. The key piece of this is that if we have a lot of creatives, it's okay to break them into a couple different ad sets, keep the concepts similar. So perhaps you're running a 30% off sale, and in that sale, you have a bunch of static images that are very basic static images, and then you have a bunch of founder videos, as I previously mentioned, and then maybe you have 5 UGC videos as well, or 20 UGC videos. So then we would easily, what we'd want to do is we want to have all of our founder videos in one place. We'd want to have all of our UGC videos in one place, and then we want to have all of our statics in one place. Now, if you only have like a quick group of ads that you're running, like 8 ads, 10 ads even, then you can 100% just group those together. So if you have high amount of ads, a lot of ads, group them into packs. If you have very few ads, like sub 10 ads, then group them all together into one single pack. The reason that we're okay with just grouping these together in this case is because Facebook's generally going to do an okay job of pushing spend to the best performing assets. And there's actually technically nothing that will be changed whether you're running individual ad sets or multiple ad sets. It'll be the same. The groupings of the packs when you have multiple products is more so that you could see that style of creative overall for yourself and how it's performing. Something that would often happen is like all the founder videos, which would be down here, and all the UGC, and then all of the statics, they would typically work similarly to one another, right? So like static videos might get higher click-through rates or more expensive clicks, but better conversion, where founder videos might get very high click-through rates, but lower conversion. I'm making things up here. And as a group, that helps you analyze the actual data behind things. So not really like 100% necessary, but just a call out there. That's only part 1 of this. So let's say we just ran with 2 early November with 2 different packs because we had a bunch of creative. Don't worry about 4 and 2 here. Let's say we had 10 and 10, right? A lot of creative. The next piece of this is we don't just run broad during this period. So what that means is, let's do some work here together. What that means is during this period, we're going to take these exact setups here, the same exact ads that we already have, and we're going to run interest groups within this. So in this same prospecting campaign, we're now running our proven interest that we've worked on and has proven to work throughout the year. The reason this is really helpful is because interest groups usually boost return on ad spend. And let's be real, we want to boost our return on ad spend during the most important time of the year. So you'll have the same ads as you have in your 2 broads up here in your 2 interests down here. It doesn't need to be 2. You could run multiple interests, right? This could easily triple right? This could easily triple. I'm taking up too much real estate right now. But this could easily expand, right? You don't just need to run, one or two interests here. You could run multiple interests that you've proven to work before. Good, fair thing to think about is if you have a low budget, if you're spending $100 a day, then yeah, probably this is as expansive as you can get. But if you're running, some brands that are watching this are going to run $50,000 a day. Have multiple interest groups. Like, this is totally acceptable and it's very normal to do. Okay. Now that's just the first part. That's just the timeline here, or excuse me, that's just the early November portion of this. What do we do when we transition from early November to something like Black Friday is starting? So for example, the early November deal might just be 30% off site-wide, Black Friday's here. But the Black Friday deal might be 30% off site-wide plus bonus. Now, this is why in the previous video on the timeline, which is why you have to watch it closely, this is why I said it's really nice when you have stacked on top of your November deal, your Black Friday deal. So when we're using bonuses as the offer for Black Friday, but we're keeping the site-wide discount the same or similar. The reason this is so helpful is because you can continue to run what you have here. For example, let's say you're 30% off site-wide is your core November 1st core offer. And then for Black Friday, you are 30% off site-wide plus mystery gift. But we're not talking like a crappy mystery gift. We're talking like a banger mystery gift. This is your BF offer. And then your Cyber Monday offer is 30% off site-wide plus bundle gift. Banger, again, banger bundle. Not like a $10 thing, like a $100 huge bundle offer. This is your Cyber Monday or Cyber Week offer, right? These now stack on top of each other. If you do this, your advantage is very obvious because you don't need to pause down anything here because these are all screaming 30% off site-wide. Black Friday is here, right? Black Friday's here. Deals are here. So you're able to be at a massive advantage where you don't need to restart. You have hundreds of comments already. You can now keep all of these active, and then you actually start to use our normal prospecting CBO system. So what would happen from here, let's just make ourselves a little bit of space. What happens from here is you can now take the next offer, which is Black Friday, and you could do something really, really helpful. You could then take this whole system that you just built, just move her down here. This is all happening in the same prospecting campaign. We are now just expanding on this same campaign. So the reason this all happens in the same prospecting campaign is because everything below this line, this is now our Black Friday offer. This here is our November offer. You're now, because you've stacked your offers properly, you're now able to use your same November offer into Black Friday. Okay. Now, all of these, I think I don't need to rewrite everything to save everyone some time, but all of these go from 30% off site-wide, pack one, to 30% off site-wide plus mystery gift. Now, there's a big important part that you need to do here. This is why these are the details I don't share elsewhere. In all of these cases where you're running your Black Friday offer, what you don't want to happen is you don't want your November offer to hog all of the spend forever. So we are going to set minimum budgets, minimum ad set budgets on every single ad set. Now, I've broken down how to do that multiple times before. You go into your ad set, you scroll down to where it says ad set budget limits, and you insert a budget limit. In this case, we are comfortable for the first time being very aggressive so that, let's say you're spending $1,000, we'll just say 1K, you're spending $1,000 per day on this every single day. Now in Black Friday, let's say you want to up your budget, you want to spend $2,000 per day. So now the objective is the whole campaign spends 2K. We want to make sure that this here is getting at least right off the rip 25% of the spend. So that'd be $500, right? So if we want this to get $500, then right away, we're going to need to set each of these to $125. Excuse my poor writing, but we're going to need to set each of these to $125, I guess times 4 in this case, per ad set budget minimum. What this is just going to do is just jumpstart it. It's not going to guarantee that all of these work. It's not going to guarantee that they only spend $125. But what it's going to do is it's going to guarantee that they jumpstart off the rip, they start spending. Okay. The reason this works really well is because usually what happens is this offer is usually better than this up here. And because it's a little bit better in most cases, usually right off the rip, the 125 gets spent. And then by halfway through the day, you're spending beyond the 125 and you're taking budget, funneling it from here to here. Okay. So let's add those back in there. Boom. Now, what do you do if this is just so much better? If this is just cranking, it is clearly better, but this is still getting a decent amount of spend. Pause this stuff down. This is one of the only periods where I say that. Be comfortable being aggressive, but don't do this on like 5 purchases. Do this when you have like a lot of data to prove it. Because this here has social proof from running for potentially, right? We're looking for November 1st onwards. This potentially ran for 20 days. You might have literally 200 comments at this point. Okay. What do we do after Black Friday? We do the same exact thing for Cyber Monday. I'm not going to rewrite this whole thing, but you probably get the point. You are then just stacking a full duplicate, just as we did here, full duplicate right down here into Cyber Monday. Same situation. You take this. Looks like I'm copying too many things, but you take this. Now this is your Cyber Monday launch right here, all into the same prospecting campaign. Okay. Minimum ad set budgets across the board, which functions as a way to force budget into the Cyber Monday situation. Okay. Now, the hard part of this is what do we do after the big sales are over? Once early December begins, what do we do? So for early December, you're put in a 50-50 scenario here. In early December, you could do one of two things. You could either re-enable your evergreen ads, which I have right here. You could re-enable your evergreen structure, just throw this thing back on, and then you could add your December ads, assuming your sale isn't a huge sale. They'll probably get a good amount of spend. They'll probably rise to the top, and all is good. Your best ads are getting spend. Some December deals are getting a good amount of spend, etc. That's the easy way to do this. It's the safest way to do it as well. Well, if you're not safe and you want to be aggressive, then the next thing you're going to have to do here is, again, it depends on your deal. If you still are going to run your very aggressive November 1st offer so you're running your November 1st offer into early December, then great. Pause down your Black Friday, Cyber Monday, keep the November that's been active this whole time active, and then do the same thing again. Launch another round and just get your December specific assets launched in. Easy. Most people will not run their December offer as aggressive as their November offer because now we start to dilute the brand image. In that case, which again will be most people, we will have to pause down our November, our Black Friday, and our Cyber Monday offers in all cases, right? You're not going to have ads that aren't related to your sale. Of course, that makes no sense. So in that case, you have to launch just like we did on the 1st of November. If you scroll back on this video 10 minutes, just like we did on the 1st of November, your account is going to look like this again. This is what your December is going to look like. I mean, we're not deleting anything. We're just pausing those assets down. This is what your December is going to look like. And then you're going to do the same process again that we just did in early December into mid-December, right? Because you're likely running similar deal for early December plus adding bonuses for mid to late December. I would recommend for most people that you do run into this core strategy and just insert your new packs for the month of December because you're not getting nearly as big of a pop. The only time I would recommend doing it the way that I just said here is if you are still continuing to run a very aggressive deal, or in better case, the same deal that you're running on November 1st on December 1st. Okay. That's truly the core of this. The only piece that we need to just talk about here is retargeting and retention. So I'll keep this very simple for us. When it comes to retargeting and retention, where we're getting our existing customers and our engaged customers re-engaged and buying, These are going to be the best places for you to make a lot of money really quick. During this period, you want to run your same cohorts and get a little bit more expansive. So if you're running only, for example, 30-day site visitors, let's just move that to 90-day. If you're running 90-day add to cart, move that to 120 days. If you were only running 90-day purchasers, get it to 180. Get all-time purchasers in here. Just get a little bigger on these audiences, and don't worry if you overspend by 10 or 20%. This is the time of the year to be very aggressive and make some of those mistakes. We don't want anyone left behind. Now, the difference here is all we're doing is we're just duplicating these campaigns, and we're just getting the specific ads, the Cyber Monday ads, the Black Friday ads, the November ads. We're getting those just added in to these campaigns. You're following the same mechanism that I broke down here, where you might have multiple asset groups. You might have, in many cases, you might have to pause things down, which is a little abnormal for my evergreen strategy. But let me just show you really quickly in the retention campaign, the same principle. I'll break down the retention campaign, 100% applies to the retargeting campaign. So if you had your new retention campaign that's focused on your November sale with your all-time purchasers and your 180-day purchasers into individual asset groups, in your actual ads, you can now have, let's just steal some ads from up here just so it could save us all some time. Okay, you can now have your creative assets for, just get rid of this, we can't. You can now have your creative assets for your November sale to start here. And then if they still apply, then keep them active. And the easy thing to do here is you don't need to recreate ad sets every single time. You can just launch your new round of creative right in here. So if November sale ends, right, November 1st sale ends and Black Friday begins, just launch your Black Friday ads right into this group. The reason this is completely fine is because your budget's lower. And in most cases, you're going to be a little bit, because your higher volume of purchases, because it's retention or it's retargeting, and your budget's lower, we don't really want to break things out 100 times over. So be completely comfortable in these cases to just have like a lot of assets in these groups. Creative diversity is fantastic for retargeting and retention campaigns. So I hope that makes sense. I know I didn't go through that for another 20 minutes because I don't want to belabor all you guys. But this strategy here is very simple on the retention and the retargeting side. We're literally just launching our sale ads into a new retention campaign, into a new retargeting campaign. And we're just keeping that same one active from November 1st all the way through the sale periods ending, which is usually Christmas time. All right. Strategy and structure is done. Black Friday can be aced. Let's do it.